Hey guys, and welcome back to the second part of our tulip video. In this video, we're going to go ahead and add some color to our really nice our picture that we drew last time. Now I went ahead and added a line straight down my picture. The reason I did that is because on one side, I'm going to go ahead and use crayon to color it in, and on the second side, I'm going to go ahead and paint with some watercolor I have here, okay? Now the reason I'm doing that is so the students at home that have crayons could follow along on this side, and the students who have the watercolor or would like to paint their tulips will also be able to kind of see how we do it on this side, okay? Now, if you don't have crayons or watercolor, that's okay. You go through with your number 2 pencil and add some shading to it. There's lots of different ways to make this look really awesome, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and start. Now, tulips can actually be multiple different colors. I'm going to go ahead and choose orange for my tulips. I think that's a really nice color. I'm also going to make my vase an orange. I'm going to make my table blue. Obviously, my stems and my leaves are going to be green, and then my background is going to be yellow, okay? I want to make that a really nice, bright color, and that's really going to complement some of the other stuff going on and make them pop, okay? As soon as we get done with our coloring on this side with our crayons, we'll go ahead and jump right over here to this, okay? So, doesn't really matter where you start with your crayons on this side since we don't have to worry about things getting wet or dry. So I'm going to go ahead with orange and start to work right on my tulips, okay? So I'm just going to go right in here. And I always like to make my edges really dark, okay? Kind of a technique I've always really enjoyed. Starting just like that, okay? Go ahead and keep on moving. Straight across, just like that, okay? Now, you don't have to choose orange for your tulips, but Mr. Gilbert's going to make sure that I go in here and make mine look orange. Now, if you would like to maybe make an orange one and then make a blue one or a yellow one, please feel free. Okay, go right in here. Okay, now, what I'm going to do now that I've made all my edges really dark is I'm going to go in here and lightly just kind of drag my crayon, making sure that it's getting on the tooth of the paper, okay? All those little bumps in your paper, it's called the tooth, okay? So I want to make sure that my orange is getting nice and picked up. Just like that, okay? Hopefully you guys are going to be able to see this. And if it looks a little too light, please feel free to go in here and make it a little bit darker. Sometimes I like to use little circular motions, just like that. Awesome. Next, I'm going to go ahead and just complete my tulip, and I'm going to go right in here with my green for my stem. I'll take one dark line straight down. Going to get one dark line. Okay. If you'd like to maybe put a dark line like that through it, a few dark lines to add a little bit of detail to your leaves, you could do that in there, just like that. Lightly go in with my green, bringing it straight down, okay? All right, I'll catch that leaf too. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Not bad. Hopefully you guys can see that at home. Make it a little bit darker. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and start working on the vase now, so we can just kind of go from one object straight down and go worry about the background in a little bit, okay? Now I'm going to add a little bit of a detail here to my vase. I'm going to make it a little bit darker here. Going to make this whole line here kind of dark and bring it down just like that. And the reason why I'm going to make it darker, have that little curve on it, so that way it looks like the light is going to be kind of coming and shining in this way. Maybe these tulips are sitting by a window, getting some nice sunlight. So they're sitting here on our table, getting some nice sunlight here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is take this orange and blend it out, making it look pretty light over here. hopefully when I get to the painting part, I'm going to be able to accomplish kind of the same thing, so it kind of looks like one one nice picture instead of Mr. Nick or Mr. Gilbert going through here and making it two different things. Trying to blend it in really nice, making it look really good. I would say that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Depending on how dark you want your vase to be or how orange, go in here and do a really good job. Okay. Now, we have this other part, this back part of our vase here that you can see. So this would be the inside rim, almost like if my cup here, if I turned it a little bit to the side, as you guys can see, this is also a darker green. So I'm actually going to go in here and make this a really dark orange, just like that. I'm just going to push down on my crayon. Don't want to push too hard, don't want to break it, but I'm going to go in here just like that. Look at that. It looks pretty good. I like that. So nice looking vase. Nice looking tulips, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and this blue. And the reason I'm going to do that is because blue makes it look, it's going to make that orange really, really pop. It's a complementary color. So that's just, they complement each other. They're really nice, right? So we're going to go in here with our blue. And I'm going to make this dark back here. Not too much. I'm not going to worry about trying to put a shade in here or make it look like it's shade or anything else like that, or a shadow. I'm just going to go ahead and make a dark line back here, okay? Now, I'm not going to go around the whole entire thing with a dark line because we're only worried about this line here, okay? So this is kind of sitting in front of our dark line. So then I'm going to go right in here, and I'm going to do this very quickly, seeing how Mr. Gilbert's kind of got to got to paint the whole other side as well. So I'm going to kind of quickly go in here and try to blend that in. I'm going to go try to have control. The crayon, you don't want to go start bending your edges or doing anything like that. I'm going to try to blend this in a little bit better so it's not. Okay, not too bad. Now, obviously, if I had more time or I was really going to color the whole thing, I'd probably make this a lot darker in here and go and add some stuff. But since I'm just trying to quickly go through some of this with you, I'm going to leave that just as it is, okay? Now, our last thing we're going to add to this side is we're going to add this yellow. And once again, it's going to kind of just bring all this color forward. It's going to kind of really make these things pop out. You just have to make sure that when you go in through here with your leaves, around where your leaves and your tulips are, you just have to be very careful, and you have to kind of point out and make sure what's yellow and what's green and what's orange. When you're painting this, it's a little bit more difficult, or if you have a lot of different flowers in here and you have a lot of stems and a lot of leaves, it's a lot more difficult. I kind of left mine open so you can kind of see the background a little bit easier. So if you have a lot of them in here, just make sure that you take your time and kind of follow your stems down and follow your leaves and make sure you're coloring the right object the right color, okay? So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to work on this part first. Now I'm not worried about making anything dark. I'm not going to go through the whole side of these and make it dark. I'm just going to go in here with my yellow and kind of make this nice background. Okay. Once again, I hope this is kind of picking up here for you guys to be able to see at home. Okay. Kind of a nice general pass. I want to make sure I'm doing a really good job. You don't have to push too hard. Don't have to worry about like bearing down on your crayon. Just want to do really good at covering. Obviously, once again, Mr. Gilbert is kind of rushing through this, so that way I could get to the also painting part of this video. Okay. Go back over certain areas. Make sure you color all the way to the edge of your paper. Very careful that you don't pull back your paper. All right. Looks pretty good. All right, awesome. Hopefully, once again, you guys could see that, but it looks really good on this side. Now, if you don't have your watercolor, if you don't have any kind of tempera cakes or any kind of paint or anything that you'd like to do with that, please continue to work with your crayons. The same thing that you did on this side, you'll do on the other side. If you do have watercolor, if you do have tempera cakes, I'm going to take just a few seconds to go through that with you guys. These might look familiar. We use them a lot in the classroom. We also use these a lot. As you can see, it's been seen some better days here, and I'm sure you all remember these paintbrushes from my classroom with the bristles that kind of fall out from time to time. I'm going to briefly talk about this real quick and then go into painting. Now, if you are going to use watercolor or you're going to use tempera cakes, remember that when you are using these, you must constantly add water, right? Seems pretty easy, seems pretty simple. But what happens a lot of time is that you'll add some water to the top and then forget to continue to add water. Remember what Mr. Gilbert's always talked to you guys about? All the water that sits on top of the tempera cake, or I'm sorry, on top of the cake at all, whether it be tempera or watercolor, if there's water sitting on top of it, that's the actual paint, okay? These little cakes, yes, they are paint, but that's not the paint we're trying to use. We're going to be using the water that's sitting on top of it. We're going to constantly add it, swirl it around a little bit, and then we're going to go right in here and paint, okay? Now, one more rule about our watercolor is you must make sure your brush is always wet. Remember what happens when it starts to look like Mr. Gilbert's hair? Guys, remember how I talked to you guys about that? Okay, when it starts to get frayed at the end, just like that, when you're painting with it, you need to make sure that you're adding water because your brush is thirsty, okay? It's just really, really dry. These come apart pretty easily, okay? So you just need to make sure that you're adding lots and lots of water, okay? I'm going to be using my my Green Lantern cup here. This is one I paint with at home all the time. I use this in my professional painting as well. It's just, I've had it for years. So I'm going to go ahead and use the exact same color scheme. I'm going to do orange for my tulips, and obviously green for my stems, orange for my vase, blue for my table, yellow for my background. Now, there is some order to things that's going to make it a little bit easier to do. You obviously don't want to do everything up here at one time and then move down here, because if I start to do the orange for my tulips and my green and then move directly to the yellow for my background, since it's all going to be really wet, it's going to start to kind of bleed out together and blend and mix, and it's going to be kind of a mess. So what I would like to do is probably use one color, obviously, all at the same time. So I'm going to do orange for my tulips and then take that same orange and move down and do that for my my vase as well. So I'm going to go ahead. Let's move these crayons out of the way here. Okay, get my Green Lantern cup. Now I have a paper towel here just for spills. We're not going to really use it because remember, we always want our brush to be wet. Okay, so I'm just going to dunk it right in there. Move it right over here to the orange. Yep, just going to kind of load up on the water there. I don't know if you guys, how well you could see that, but there's water right there. Okay. So all the water sitting on the top is going to be my my paint. Now, the more water you add to it, the more you're going to dilute it down. Means the more, obviously, the more watery it's going to get. The more watery it is, the lighter the color is going to come out onto your paper. Okay, so if you barely have any water, it's going to be very, very dark. If you have lots of water, then it's going to be very, very light. Okay, so I'm going to go in here. I'm just going to kind of have control of my brush, and I'm just going to kind of pick it along what I can here. Just like that. Okay. Now we don't need it to be super dark. In fact, I could just take the paint that I have already on my paper here. I don't need to try to get more paint. And I can go ahead and spread that around. Okay, just kind of have control of your brush. Go just like that. Do the same thing right over here. Okay, awesome. Now, since I don't have a lot of paint on my paper, it's going to dry very quickly as well. That's exactly what we're looking for. So I'm going to add a little bit of paint here. Going to get some more orange. Going to add a little bit to my vase here. And what's going to happen is I'm going to go directly over to the water, pick up that water, and bring it right back. And I'm just going to add that water directly to my paper. That way I'm going to kind of dilute it down and see how close I could get. Just maybe matching what I did with my crayon over here. Okay. Try to keep it, you know, inside. I got a little bit outside of the lines. That's okay. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, obviously, with the orange, I'm going to go right in here, and I'm going to try to make that dark as well. Remember, we're kind of matching it. Let me bring this down. Awesome. All right, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush. I'm done with the orange. I'm not using orange anymore. I'm going to go in with my green really quick and pick up the leaves here and the stems, and then I'll move down to the blue. And then hopefully by the time I'm done with the blue, I'll be able to come right back up and finish the yellow without too much trouble. So I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush. I'm just going to swish it around in there. Okay. Tap it off on the cup. I don't need to dry my brush off or anything else. I need to make sure that it stays wet. So I'm going to take the water right from the cup. If you have too much water, you can kind of, you know, tap it off on the side there. I'm going to go right in here to my green. Same thing. I'm just going to swish it around a little bit. Okay. I'm going to get a little bit more green. I'm sorry, a little bit more water. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to go right in here. Control of my brush. Just like that. Now the green that I chose as a crayon is not going to match, but that's okay. This is most definitely a darker green. Go right in here just like that. Okay. Get a little bit of green. Now if I wanted to make this darker, if I wanted to make it lighter, I would be using a lot more water, but I'm okay with how dark this looks. That's okay. I like that. One last leaf. All right. Looking pretty good. Next, I'm going to go ahead and just clean out my brush. I don't need green anymore. We got 2 colors left. Now, while I'm letting this top dry, that way we can put the yellow on. And while we're waiting for this to dry, we'll go down here and use this blue. The vase here is dry enough. There's not any kind of blending that will be happening on our part. So I'm going to go right in here and do the same thing, adding lots of water to the blue, swishing it around. It's pretty good. I want to make that dark blue line here as well. Okay. And then I'm going to add some blue in here just like this. Add a little bit of water to that. Once again, when you're painting, please, please, please take your time. I am rushing through this just so kind of get everything that we need done. Remember, when it starts to look like this, your brush is starting to kind of, like I said, look like Mr. Gilbert's hair. Like that, we want to make sure that we add water. The way to fix it, you just dunk it right into water, you pour it right out, and you're good to go. If you have a little bit too much water, you can kind of tap it on the side of your cup there. Right in here with the blue. And I'm going to kind of blend that out. I want that dark line back here, so I'm going to go in with a little bit with the blue here. And see how well I can blend that out. Okay. All right, so now if your water's starting to look a little murky, starting to turn brown or very, very dark orange or something else like that, then you can obviously go and get some fresh water. It's not like Mr. Gilbert's classroom where you have to raise your hand. Please feel free to, get the water that you need. Always try to keep your cup of water clean the best you can, especially if you're using very dark colors like purples and blacks, and then you go to use something light like yellow. I'm going to go ahead and just keep using the cup I have. Just since I'm almost finished with this as well. So once again, just going to go ahead for the yellow. Now we have to be very, very careful when we're painting with our yellow here, because we're going to have to go into those little sections just like this, okay? So if it has too much water, if it's too wet, we have to be very careful because it can bleed right over to our other parts of our painting. Much like most of you have probably experienced in my classroom when we're painting with watercolor, because we did do that a lot this year. If your painting's still wet, it will all start mixing together. That is not what we want. Right in here, just like that. Okay. Just like that. It's looking good. I'm just going to go ahead and continue to work around. It's probably not the best method, but it's a little bit easier for me right now. Remember, if it's starting to look darker in one area than another, add water to it to kind of dilute it down or make it look a little bit lighter. Okay, I'm going to hold my painting down here. Now, when you're using watercolor in your tempera over here, you don't want to constantly add water to, oh, I'm sorry, you don't want to constantly dig at the paint and get the paint coming out. It doesn't have to be super bright. That's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for, like if we're using acrylics where we need it to be super bright and vibrant. Watercolor has a whole nother feel to itself, just like this. Okay, that's exactly what we're looking for. Okay, add a little bit of water to it. Go ahead and finish right up here corners. I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to take it straight off to the edge. Okay, you want to make sure that you're getting your paint all the way to the edge of your artwork, just like that. Okay. Well, I would say that we're done. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Remember, if you just had your crayons and you just continued on to the other side, I'm sure it looks amazing. You don't have to have paint to make it look a certain way. If you just had the watercolor and you wanted to do the whole thing in watercolor, awesome. Now, you guys know how to do this. You could go back and watch the video as many times as you need, or if you need to go through this tutorial as far as how to paint it or color it in, go through and see what other flowers you could find. Remember, tulips don't have to be orange. Your vase didn't have to be orange. The background, all these different things. This is a color scheme that I picked out, Mr. Gilbert picked out, because I just like the way it looks. So please feel free to change it up and do it many different ways or however you guys would like it. I'm really looking forward to doing the next project, so please stay tuned and we'll have a new video out as soon as possible. Okay, guys? Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.